This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. And this weather forecast is brought to you by some web hosting and domain names at ozsome.com. Good Wednesday morning. Clouds and showers and maybe a thunderstorm today near 60. Mostly cloudy with a few showers overnight, about 44, 45. Becoming partly to mostly sunny near 60 Thursday. And then more showers coming into play for Thursday night and Friday. Maybe a rumble of thunder, and the temperature Friday with some breezes and gusty winds late in the day in the low 70s. Your life, your music, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. Zimbabwe's military says it's not launching a coup, but has taken over national broadcaster ZBC to target criminals. Australians have given same-sex marriage their overwhelming approval in a voluntary survey. The US government's issued a technical alert for cyber attacks allegedly sponsored by North Korea. And Japan's economy has registered its longest period of growth in a decade after over 4 years of economic stimulus.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good morning to you on your Wednesday. It's November 15th, 2017. This is Community Conversations. Kato Wonder is in the studio with you. My co-host, Ms. Quabila Jones, is a little under the weather, so we definitely want to keep her up in prayer that she will return to us soon. So I'm flying solo today, but I do have a guest, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Mr. Ed Tanner of the city of Jonesboro, and I believe Mr. Tanner holds a bunch of hats. So how you doing today, Mr. Tanner?
Very good. How are you today?
All right.
Good
So
to be with you.
I guess, what is your official title with the city of Jonesboro?
Well, my official title is I'm the Chief Operating Officer, meaning that I take care of all the operations of the city, and in the mayor's absence, I act on his behalf and work hand in hand with the mayor on a daily basis.
Now, when you say act on the mayor's behalf, does that mean if he's gone that you're the acting mayor?
Well, sort of like that, but obviously we have our city council, but day-to-day operations in the mayor's absence, most of the folks in the city come to me.
Okay, so since you brought that up, let's talk about what is a typical day for you like at City Hall? Well,
typical day is our operations sometimes are 24/7. We have our E911 outfit that runs the 24/7 throughout the entire year. So the city really never sleeps in its support of its citizens. Our sanitation department comes in at 7 o'clock, so we're always trying to have a feel for what's going on with our operations on a daily basis. But for me specifically, there are about 9 departments that report to me. Particularly those, typically anything that has to do with outside, like our streets department, our sanitation department, our planning department that gets all of our construction people that come into the city to do construction for business. That's handled through our planning department. Our engineers are outside almost continuously helping with projects throughout the city. We also have our jet transportation program for the city. We have twofold. We have those that are routine riders, and then we also do our paratransit,
which I know Quabila uses the paratransit service.
Right.
And,
great.
She's got to know all of those paratransit drivers. She's
right.
gotten really close to them all.
And that's a great service we're able to provide for our city.
Okay, and we have a Facebook shout out to Craighead County Clerk Cade Holiday, who is checking in on our Facebook live feed. Appreciate you, Cade, for checking in. Of course, you can check in on our Facebook live feed, and of course, if you have any questions or comments for Mr. Tanner, you can certainly post them there, or you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. So let's back up just a little bit and talk about you in general and your background. How did you wind up getting to this position?
Well, that's a great question. I'm a retired Air Force member. I retired.
Well, thank you for your service.
Well, it was my pleasure. I retired in 2006. My wife from Pennsylvania. I'm from out west in Colorado, New Mexico. And when we retired, we chose Jonesboro, Arkansas.
And what made you choose Jonesboro?
Well, we had the job that I came to was I was a high school teacher. I was a junior ROTC instructor for Westside High School. And we were looking for a school about the size of Westside. We were looking for a community about the size of Jonesboro. We wanted a community that had a 4-year university, and obviously Arkansas State is here in case my children ever decided to go to college there.
Go Red Wolves.
It just seemed like a perfect fit for us to come here. And so I went to Westside High School and taught there for 9 years. Go Warriors. And I had a great time doing that. And then I had a sense of call to ministry, so I resigned that position. I've been in seminary for the past 2.5 years. We'll graduate in about 3 weeks.
Well, congratulations. And
well, thank you.
And like I had told you off the air, now I'll say on the air, we would love to invite you to be a guest on our Wednesday morning Bible study with Reverend Oates. In fact, we just had it at 8 o'clock. We do it every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. And, of course, you can go on our Facebook or on our YouTube and check out past episodes. But we definitely would love to have you as a guest on there.
All right. And so for a short stint there, I worked with a friend teaching some leadership courses in Seattle, Washington. And last fall, this position came open to work for the city, and my wife saw it in the newspaper or online or wherever she saw it, and she said, "That's you." Based on my experience in the military and the type of job description that the chief operations officer for the city was, my wife thought that was a pretty good fit. I applied for the job, and the mayor interviewed me, and the rest is history.
Now, who did you take over for?
I took over for L.M. Duncan.
Okay, and how was the transition from Mrs. Duncan to you? Was she very helpful? And
L.M. Duncan's a gentleman.
That's all
Mr.
Right. Duncan.
He was the former mayor of Bono and then was the chief operating officer for the city.
So how do you feel that your military experience helped to prepare you for this position?
I think it was a perfect fit. I have been an operations officer in the past. I've been a squadron commander, so I've sat kind of in both seats. So I can kind of understand where the mayor comes from and a lot of his direction. I think I've been able to jump right in and do the things that were required of me for the job.
Once again, we are speaking with Mr. Ed Tanner, who is the Chief Operating Officer for the City of Jonesboro. And we have another Facebook shout-out. Shout-out to Craighead County E911 Director, Jeff Presley, who is watching. So since Jeff is actually on our live feed, I want to ask a question. So how does the city work with the E911? You kind of mentioned that in the beginning, and it's one of the things that you work with. So how did you and Mr. Presley work together in those regards?
Well, Jeff and I work hand in hand literally almost on a daily basis. He's one of the departments under the Chief Operating Officer, and he does a great job. He leads the state literally in 911. Many of the even some of the larger cities come to Jeff for his expertise on how to handle 911. We are currently undergoing a project where we're updating our maps and we're updating our routing system to get our emergency services vehicles, whether they're city-owned or whether they're the ambulatory services, to cut down time to get to the victims and the people that need their help.
Well, and I can definitely, even though I don't know much about how everything works, but I do know that Mr. Presley is definitely passionate about that. And he definitely strives to ensure that the Craighead County 911 has the best and up-to-date equipment to do the jobs that they perform, so that the city of Jonesboro as well as Craighead County can be as safe as possible. Now, some of the other things that I'm looking at that you mentioned that you're involved with are street and sanitation. So let's talk about your involvement with those departments.
Okay. Our street department has over 50 employees in it, and their primary, they do a couple different things, but their primary thing right now that they've been doing, especially since we had the flood a couple years ago, is they're responsible for drainage in the city, primarily working on those drainage ditches to get our water out of the city. So the main tributaries, the main ditches, in order to do that for our citizens. So we have approximately 71 miles.
That's a lot of ditches.
Of ditches, and those are main ditches that they're responsible for keeping clear to make sure that the water gets out.
And of course, that's a problem that does come up from time to time, especially when there's floods. I know one of the areas is like Ray Street that tends to flood, and I know there's been some construction and some work over there. So what are some of the ongoing efforts that the city is doing to try to mitigate some of the flooding issues?
Well, unfortunately, we're kind of limited in our resources, whether they're manpower, physical resources, and certainly budgetary resources to do everything that would be required. We've had the Corps of Engineers came in, and they have already proposed over $100 million of projects that we could do. But we don't spend nearly as much as we need to regarding that. We're going to currently have a study of stormwater management that we're going to propose possibly a stormwater utility fee in the future in order to get more money to build more detention
So would
ponds.
that, not to cut you off, so would that mean an additional fee on a person's water bill to help pay for that?
Well, all those details haven't been determined yet on how to collect that, but every citizen will participate because every citizen is at risk in Jonesboro.
Do you think that'll be a hard sell, though? I mean, obviously it's something that's needed, but one of the things that happens sometimes in the city of Jonesboro when things are proposed, especially when it involves people spending more money, there's a bit of resistance to that. So, how do you think that you could actually, sell the community on? Yes, we may all have to come up off of a few more dollars to pay for it, but it's going to be good for the city as a whole.
Well, I think you just said it right there in your own words. Our goal will be to present this to the city in a manner where it's going to be clear and obvious that we have areas that we need to work on, and this fee will help us.
And what are some of those areas that are?
Some of them are detention ponds. Some of them will be putting, instead of a ditch, we'll put pipe systems in order to get the water out. There's just a variety. We have a long list of projects of where people are having flooding issues with their homes or with their yards. Right now, our efforts are primarily concentrated on those where homes have actually had water into their homes.
And I know because there have been some people who have contacted us at KLEK about their homes, and a couple of them I've even referred to you to address, like, help, my home was flooded, my ditch is stuck or whatever. And I can say that Mr. Tanner does try to address each issue. But one question that I do want to ask before I do that, let me do a couple Facebook shots. Jeff Presley says, thanks guys, and shout out to Officer Blake Easley. Appreciate you for checking in. Now, in a situation like what I just mentioned a moment ago, we'll have a listener who is concerned and saying, well, my ditch is flooded or it's got trash in it, and we clean it out and somebody just randomly goes by and dumps stuff in it and it gets full, and then they bring it to us and we bring it to your attention. And then I know in a couple of cases there's been some back and forth over, well, is it the property owner's responsibility versus the city's responsibility? So how does that work, when an individual has an issue with drainage or flooding on their own property, or maybe even a ditch that may be nearby their property? Right.
The best thing for them to do is call the street department, and the street department will create a work order for that issue. Typically, they'll probably go out and inspect it first to see what kind of problem there is and what kind of solution is required. And then based on the list of projects that we have, we try to prioritize them the best we can based on our budget and based on our resources.
Okay. Once again, we are speaking with Mr. Ed Tanner, the Chief Operating Officer of the City of Jonesboro, and he wears several hats. We've been talking about several things that he has going on, such as streets and sanitation. In fact, this is a question that I have about sanitation that maybe you can answer. I noticed that the residential sanitation is handled by the city, but over here in the studio, which is a commercial building, it's a private contractor that comes and picks up the trash from over here. Why is that? Why doesn't the city handle the commercial pickup?
Yeah, I think, I don't know the complete details of this. This was preceded me, but I understand either back in the early 2000s or late 90s, Part of a public sales tax was that the city would agree that they would collect residential garbage for free for the citizens of Jonesboro, if that had passed. And we are in that process of filling out that commitment that the city made during that time. So our commitment, the Jonesboro commitment, is to residential property, not commercial property.
Okay, well, I just thought that was interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
the garbage man comes on time every week, so it's not like it's a complaint, but just something that I was just wondering about. And of course, if you have anything that you are wondering or have a question about for Mr. Tanner, you can give us a call, 870-277-1080. Once again, the phone number is 870-277-1080. Or you can weigh in on our Facebook live feed. Now, Mr. Tanner, is there anything... because I know that you got a stack of paperwork, so I want to make sure that you get the opportunity to talk about anything that you may want to let the citizens know. So is there anything that you have that you want to talk about at this time?
Well, going back to sanitation a little bit, I do want to let everybody know that next year the city is going to take over collection of the recycling program.
Okay, and who's doing that right now?
Right now, we currently are under contract with Abilities Unlimited, and Abilities Unlimited currently collects recycling in the blue bags. In addition, they also process the recycling, and that's our current contract with them. This past spring, probably around May or June time frame, we amended that contract. They still collect and process, but instead of collecting every week, we've gone to twice monthly collection. And I think we've got the word out the best we could, anticipating some of those issues that we might be having, and I think for the most part the city has caught on, and we're doing quite well. I don't think our collection is decreased at all, but starting on the 1st of July next summer, the city's going to take over the collection.
Would there be any anticipated change as far as collection points or anything like that?
No, collection will be the same thing. It'll be curbside pickup. One of the biggest changes we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the blue bags, and we're going to buy, I think, a 65-gallon recycling bins, just like your garbage can. Your garbage can is a 96-gallon for residential pickup, but we're going to offer 65-gallon recycling carts.
And that'd be for each individual homeowner?
For the individual homeowners that choose it. It's a voluntary program. What we're going to do for next year, the recycling carts are going to cost us about $50 a piece, but we're going to offer them for sale to the residents who choose to recycle at $20 a piece. So if they'll partner with us, they put in 20, the city will put in the rest of the 30, and they will have a garbage can assigned to their home that they have purchased, and we will do curbside pickup for them.
Now, will this be available for apartments as well?
Apartments, for residential apartments, if they choose to participate, they'll need to contact the city. And we will, what we do for apartments is we have dumpsters. And we have a front load truck that will come in. The residents will place their recycling in a dumpster, and then twice monthly the city will come and collect that as well.
Okay, and what are some of the other things that can be looked forward to from the sanitation or street department?
We have some pretty significant projects next year. Obviously, for us, the big thing for sanitation will be the recycling change. For our street department, we again have doubled our overlay, meaning fresh asphalt throughout the city, from $500,000 to $1 million. So that'll be the second year in a row that we've gone to $1 million on our asphalt.
Well, and one of the areas I've noticed where asphalt is being placed is over there by Walnut Street Baptist Church. That curve that you go around off of that exit, I see where they are resurfacing it. Are there any other areas that are planned to get new asphalt?
Right. We haven't identified those streets yet, but we're going to try to do that by about middle of December. And what our engineering department has is they have a grading system for every street in the city of Jonesboro. So those streets on that grading system, we try to take those streets that are in most dire need of an asphalt overlay to prevent us from completely having to rebuild that street, and those will have priority over the other streets.
All righty. Once again, we are speaking with Mr. Ed Tanner, Chief Operating Officer of the City of Jonesboro, talking about a variety of topics. Once again, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080, or you can leave your questions and comments on our Facebook Live feed. So let's kind of move ahead a little bit to Jets. So what is the latest with the Jets? And of course, one of the things that we always get questions and comments about is about the Saturday service as well as the Sunday service for people who want to go to church. I know that they currently have the thing for Redwoods football games,
Right.
but any updates on potentially expanding the jet service?
Yes, that's an excellent question and perfect timing. In our budget for this year that just met the finance department yesterday that got forwarded to council is for the city to provide Saturday service. So starting in January, depending on the hiring process when we can get additional workers. But we anticipate starting in January, we will provide Saturday service primarily to on select routes where we have been with an understanding of people trying to get to work.
Okay, so
On
probably the most traveled routes.
Correct. It won't be a full city, all day type of route like we do Monday through Friday, but it'll be some type of limited service trying primarily to get people back and forth to work.
Well, hey, we got to start somewhere, so we
Yep.
are definitely thankful for that. And I know,
Sure.
Mrs. Farrell, if you're watching, I know there's definitely some good news that you would definitely like to hear. We're speaking with Mr. Ed Tanner, Chief Operating Officer of the City of Jonesboro. We're about to get ready to go to break. Don't go anywhere. This is Community Conversations. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Do you control your emotions, or do your emotions control you? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Emotions are so powerful that at times they seem to overwhelm us. Emotions like jealousy, anger, fear, worry, and grief can put us on a reactionary path. But you don't have to be controlled by your emotions. These important tips may help. First, be the boss of your thoughts. Emotions certainly affect your thoughts, but your thoughts can also guide your emotions. Try to look at an emotional decision or situation with someone who can help you think objectively. Often, the realities of objective thoughts can lessen the blow of those intense emotions. For more tips on handling negative emotions, visit my blog at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
For almost 3 years, KLEK 102.5 FM has brought you the music you love on your radio, on your computer, and on your phone. Now, we want to bring the music to your party, wedding, or any event. KLEK now offers DJ services for all occasions with over 22 years of DJ and broadcast experience. We can also announce your event on KLEK. Need a photographer for that special occasion? We got that covered too. Package deals available. Book us for DJ, photography, or for both for your event today. Call 870-203-9951 or look us up on social media at KLEK-FM.
The Epic Center, located at 1899 Hasbrook Road, County Road 333, is Jonesboro's newest venue for entertainment for the entire family. They offer an auditorium with theater-style seating for up to 1,100 guests, a large stage, professional lighting and sound, dressing rooms, concessions, and more. Available for weddings, concerts, pageants, birthday parties, showers, and more. Booking and other information is available at Epic Center Jonesboro on Facebook, epiccenterjonesboro.com, and at 870-530-5841.
Start
Starks Auto Plaza, your pre-owned superstore, is a longtime supporter of KLEK. 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard, Starks offers clean, reliable vehicles of all makes and models. Starks also offers no-hassle pricing, friendly service, financing options with approved credit. At Starks, you're always family, and our motto is, we never say no. 870-203-9980. StarksAutoPlaza.com.
Courtesy Productions and KLEK presents the first annual Christmas and Blues Southern Soul Showcase featuring Billy Soul Bonds, Charles Wilson, Mo B, and Ricky White. Live December 16th at the Epic Center, 1899 CR 333 Hasbrook Road, Jonesboro. Showtime 7 p.m. Ticket, VIP, and other info 870-203-9951 or klekfm.org.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with our guest, Mr. Ed Tanner, the Chief Operating Officer of the City of Jonesboro. And we're talking about several of the things that are going on in the city. Of course, I'm just going to touch back on, for those just tuning in, he's over streets, sanitation, planning, engineering, inspections, facility maintenance, and parks. He's kind of like the boss of many people. In fact, he even kind of fills in for the mayor sometimes when the mayor can't be available to do his job. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, you can once again give us a call at 870-277-1080 or weigh in on our Facebook live feed. We talked a little bit about engineering, but we didn't say much on it on our last segment. So let's start there and kind of talk about your role with the engineering department of the city.
Well, our engineering department seems to be about involved in about everything in the city. Any projects that we're getting ready to do, they're usually the point person on that. They're usually the ones that are making recommendations on how to build things or how to set up drainage projects and a variety of other aspects. Almost everybody that does business with the city will almost touch engineering in one form or another. They just do quite a bit. We've also have a traffic control engineer who's been able to, in the last couple of years, come and synchronize our lights in many of our streets. So you can literally drive down Red Wolf Boulevard if you were driving the speed limit and make it through from north to south or south to north without having to stop. Just in the way.
Well, I must be unlucky because I can't.
You can't seem to make that happen.
And speed limit. Well, I mean, it's so backed up. You know. I mean, you really can't speed. But I know that what they do is still an important job.
Yeah. But they take lead on many of our projects. We have our state transportation improvement plan next year. There's probably going to be 2 or 3 intersection projects that we're getting ready to dive into, such as Southwest Drive and Highland, right there by the Walgreens and the McDonald's. They're going to probably start that project next year. We also have,
and what will be done on that particular project?
They're going to completely redo that whole intersection in order to improve and increase the flow of traffic through those two areas.
And of course, one of the other road projects that has been talked about is the overpass that's going to be, I believe, over Nettleton and Highland. Any updates on that?
Sure are. Probably around this time next year, we anticipate that being let in order to go out to bid. There's actually 2 bridges that are going to be built as part of that project. The main bridge will be the one that will be on Highland that goes over the railroad tracks. Once we shut down that bridge, there's not going to be any place for the traffic to go. So in advance of that project, we're also going to, just south of there, you know where Nettleton Baptist Church is? Mm-hmm. Right around the corner.
Well, now Fullness of Joy.
Right, I'm sorry. Fullness of Joy. Right around the corner there's a street called Watt Street. Mm-hmm. And Watt Street, in advance of the bridge built on Highland, they're going to build a bridge at Watt Street.
So it'll be a temporary bridge?
No, it'll be a permanent bridge.
Okay, so there'll actually be 2, so you can either cross on Watts or cross on Highland.
That's correct. But they will do the Watt Street Bridge in advance so that we'll have a place for traffic to go while the Nettleton Street is closed down.
And what would be the estimated time frame of construction on the project once it gets going?
Ooh, that's a good question. One, I don't quite have the answer.
I'd say at least a guess.
Yeah, I'd probably say at least a year.
Are there any other major projects that are going to be under construction? I know at one point I went to a meeting where someone from the state was mentioning, of course, a timeline wasn't given, a potential bypass
at Commerce.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be another state project. I think they're doing some engineering for that now. That might be a little bit further out. I think that's part of the STIP as well. And the reason that they're trying to get another road paralleling Red Wolf is to get some of that traffic off of Red Wolf. I think
it's definitely needed.
Yeah, I don't have the specific numbers, but Red Wolf was built for X number of vehicles per day, and I think we're already at that, if not a little bit over.
And I think that's the thing that's so surprising. I can just speak from my own experience getting here in 1996, and of course now to 2017, seeing the explosive growth. I think in a way it kind of caught the city off guard that it just blew up just like that, and it's increasing. I know when last time Mayor Perrin was here in the studio, he mentioned that the population of Jonesboro is growing by 3 people per day, and you do the math times 365, well, that's 1,000 and then some people that are coming to Jonesboro every day. So how, factoring that in mind, how does that affect your job? Because obviously that presents some unique challenges to you.
It absolutely does. I think right now we're probably at pace or on par of where we need to be for our current population. But we can't plan on that. We have to plan 5 years from now. We have to plan 10 years from now. We have to anticipate what our city's going to be like 15 or 20 years from now. With the continued growth that we have, our current infrastructure won't be able to handle that type of growth over all those years. And we do expect Jonesboro to continue to grow. We have some of the best industry here in Jonesboro. We continue to attract industry to Jonesboro. We have 2 major health centers of St. Bernard's and NEA Baptist. We have a major 4-year university with a doctor's school in it, so we will continue to attract people to our city, and it's going to provide challenges for us. 2 of the biggest things that attract people to our city are going to be the quality of life and our public safety.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that allows us to transition into planning, and of course you mentioned public safety. Now, how does your office work with the Jonesboro Police Department? Because one of the big challenges that they have is Jonesboro is the 2nd largest city in Arkansas by land mass, with 88 something square miles, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So it's a lot of territory to cover. And when you add to that the explosive growth of population, so they have their own challenges. And of course, when Chief Elliott comes on, we talk about that. So how do you, in your position, work with the police department with planning for, as you say, on down the road and the growth that comes with that?
Well, as a leadership team, all the chiefs, the chief financial officer, chief of police, chief of operations, fire chief, as part of the mayor's leadership team, we're always anticipating and looking forward. Also part of public safety will be our fire. At some point, we anticipate we will have to build an 8th fire station.
To keep that Class 1 rating.
To keep that Class 1 ISO rating. So, you know, we're always trying to think 5 years out, 10 years out. Our directors are taking care of our day-to-day operations, also anticipating those things, and they bring a lot of things to our attention that we may not be aware of that we can provide to the mayor.
Once again, we're speaking with Mr. Ed Tanner, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the City of Jonesboro. Now, of course, one of the things about planning is, and this is something that we see all the time, you know, people, they come here and people want to build stuff, whether it's building a house or building a business, or in our case, hopefully within the next few months, building a taller tower for our studio. But people want to build things, and of course, when you want to build things, there is a process you have to go through with zoning and getting approvals. And as history has shown us, especially in recent memory, some of the proposals for zoning have been met with resistance, especially when it comes to certain apartment complexes that may be near residential neighborhoods. There has been some opposition, and you know, some of these people who are concerned about things such as increased traffic flow or potential effect on property values or even crime or a number of things. So How do you deal with that in your position? Because I imagine you have a lot of interests that you have to try to balance out.
We do. I think if there's the zoning is already established. The zoning for the city of Jonesboro has already been established. So you can go in any quadrant or any street or any area, and it has already been designated what the zoning for a piece of property is in the city of Jonesboro. Where you come to the things that you talked about, where there have been some debate on proper use and that type of thing, is when somebody asks to change the zoning for a particular project. And some of those most recently have been about apartments, some of them have been about other commercial property, and that type of thing. So when the process is, if I own a piece of property and I want to change its use from residential to, say it's a single family home, to a duplex or triplex or fourplex, then I have to go through a process to do that. The first step is usually the MAPC, the Metro Area Planning Commission. And I go and I lay it out for them, tell them what I'm going to do, and they either approve it or they don't. If they approve it, then it goes to council, and then council is the ultimate one to change the zoning for that particular land.
Now, what is the difference between changing the zoning and a conditional use permit?
Maybe the terminology I used may have not been wrong, may have been incorrect. They may not change the zoning. A conditional use permit says this piece of property can be used for, there may be a list of 20 things that types of businesses that can be done in Jonesboro. Conditional use may mean of these 20, you may be able to do these 10. So it's conditional use based on what you're going to use the property for.
Okay, just want to make that clear for the listeners out there who may not have understood. Of course, it's definitely something that we have to continue to stay tuned for. But that is the good thing about city government. If there's something being proposed and you feel a certain way about it, you do have the right to speak up, whether in favor and in opposition. So
that's correct.
It's my hope that we can continue to be civil and come together and to try to come up with solutions for things that can benefit all parties involved. Because getting kind of back to the apartment issues, I mean, one of the things that comes with growth, when people move here, people do need places to live. So we have to kind of find a way to provide housing for them, whether it's more houses, more apartments, or some combination in between. So it's definitely something that we will be watching. Now, getting back to planning, what are some of the other aspects of planning in which you get involved with? Well,
planning is kind of our first stop. Anybody that wants to do anything in Jonesboro, their first touch of the city is probably going to be in the planning department. If they're a business, if they're in construction in any way, their plans have to be approved. They are also somewhat our experts on a lot of our code when it comes to writing code or being knowledgeable about code, because when there are situations that may come up where a property owner is not sure or a business owner is not sure what they can and cannot do, the planning department usually is the one to be able to do that for them.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that allows me to transition to the next point you mentioned about code. And one of the other things that you get involved with is inspection. And of course, if you remember last year, or it may have been even 2015, but in recent memory, there was the recent property code debate in which there was some proposed changes to the property code, which were met with stiff opposition, and ultimately the property code was done away with, but because of the opposition that was so strong. But of course, property codes go back to what you mentioned about quality of life, and there could potentially be this property code issue come up again, especially again as we're experiencing this growth. So has your office been anticipating anything on that front?
No, not in particular, not in the form that it was a couple years ago when it was defeated. That was before my time. I wasn't really involved with that whole property code, and to be honest with you, I haven't been engaged with that since I've been with the city over the last year and a couple months. What we do have proposed based on some of the comments we received during the mayor's ward meetings. Once a year, he'll typically go out to the wards and try to have opportunity to meet the citizens face-to-face during that time. But a lot of them had concerns, particularly on the west end, of some of the buildings that were being constructed. When somebody sells a piece of property, the house is torn down, and then a duplex or something is built that may not completely fit in with the environment of where they're at.
Yeah, and one of the things in that regard that people have said is, like, for example, in order to fit a duplex into a piece of land that may originally be a house, they have to build the duplex sideways.
Right.
And so when you're driving by, instead of you looking at someone's front door, you're looking at the side of a building that may not even have windows on it.
That's correct.
And so that has been a concern.
And so those are the types of things that came up. But there's currently nothing in our code or in the state code preventing a builder from doing that. So the city can do what I think we're getting ready to do, and and those are called design guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
So in a design guideline, it may say, if you're building on a piece of property, your front door has to face the street. The design guideline may say that you have to have a certain amount of green space on your property if you're building a duplex or a triplex, or if you're building, if you're going to build a new apartment complex, it's got to have a facade of brick. So those are some kind of design guidelines that Darrell Smith currently is proposed to the City Council that we're kind of tracking through. He made a presentation just last week to the City Council about some of the proposed guidelines. So these are some of the things that we do take from citizens. We listen to their concerns, and if City Council agrees, then they will vote to approve the guidelines. If the City Council does not agree, then they will disapprove the guidelines.
And speaking of City Council, once again, we are speaking with Mr. Ed Tanner, the Chief Operating Officer at the City of Jonesboro. One of the things that now the City Council has to get involved with, and this maybe even to tie into somewhat planning and zoning and whatnot, is liquor licenses. The state recently changed the rules to where if an establishment wants to sell alcohol, instead of originally going to the chief and the sheriff and then submitting the application to the ABC, the entity now has to apply to the City Council to get approval before going to the ABC. And so that's obviously going to change a lot of things for the City of Jonesboro, because there are some people who are opposed to establishments getting liquor licenses. So how does your office tie into all of that? How would your office get involved in that?
Well, that's an excellent question. I don't know if our office necessarily really will, as in terms of operations.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly the mayor's office will get involved with that, but in terms of operations, I don't think we'll on a daily basis get involved. The application for that will go through the police department, and then the police department will process the application. Once the application is complete, that's what will go to the City Council, and then the City Council will determine the fate of that application.
Backing up to what we were talking about earlier with inspections, how are things going with inspection? Do y'all run into any issues with properties or having to chase down people who may have properties who are not kept up, who are a danger? How is that going?
There's two areas, I think, of inspections that you're talking about. First is our city inspector, our chief building official, and his staff. And for new construction or construction that's going on, or change of use or something to that effect, they will go in and they will inspect those buildings to make sure that they're meeting the code, the Arkansas code, and for safety and that type of thing. I think what you're referring to is mostly about our code enforcement, where code enforcement will now, once our code has been finalized by the City Council, they're the ones that go out and inspect for typically external type visual from the street, what they can see regarding any type of code violations. We have torn down, oh boy, I don't want to get these numbers wrong, but we tear down a lot of buildings.
Obviously a lot if you can't remember the numbers.
Yeah, I don't even want to say guess there, because I can't remember. I think there's about 50 houses a year that come down And some of those houses may be torn down by the property owner, where the city will go in, they'll condemn the building, and then the property owner will take it upon themselves to tear it down. Some of those we may use other funds from the city to tear down. In some of those, the city will tear it down, and then they'll go put a lien on that property, so they can't sell the property until the city gets their money back.
Now, what would happen in a situation, let's say a property owner had some property that was condemned and they can't afford to tear it down? What would there be assistance for them?
Sometimes, depending on the situation, and those were the other funds that I was talking about. I do think, and I'd have to go back and double check, I think grants can get involved in that with CDBG funds to tear down a condemned building. But I don't know that for sure, but there are some areas of assistance for people that truly cannot financially support that.
Alrighty. Once again, we're speaking with Mr. Ed Tenner. He is the Chief Operating Officer of the City of Jonesboro. We are getting ready to once again go to break, but when we come back, we're going to wrap up and just talk about all the other things that are going on in the City of Jonesboro. Don't go anywhere. This is Community Conversations, and this is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. If you're like most people, you probably have debt. But how do you know when debt is spiraling out of control? And when is it time to get help? Debtors Anonymous, an organization that helps consumers struggling with debt, lists the following signs that you might have a serious problem with debt. You're unclear about your financial situation. You don't know your account balances, monthly expenses, loan interest rates, fees, fines, or contractual obligations. You have poor savings habits. You don't plan for taxes, retirement, or other non-recurring but predictable items, and then you feel surprised when they come due. You have a kind of a live for today, don't worry about tomorrow attitude. If any of these describe you, get help. Join a debt support group consisting of members who have a common goal of eliminating debt. Go to debtorsanonymous.org to learn more and find a DA meeting group in your area. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Attention members and guests. This is your girl, Sweet Angel, the red bone with a saxophone, coming to Legends Barbecue Smokehouse, Saturday, November 25th.
A night to remember, starring Sweet Angel and the S.A. Band, performing songs like Juking at the Hole in the Wall,
At the hole in the wall.
Can't Walk Away. Showtime 8 p.m. Ticket and other information, Legends Barbecue Smokehouse, 870-530-3121.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com. Meineke of Jonesboro is now Starks Auto Service, a full-service auto repair and vehicle maintenance center offering engine and transmission repair, brake service, tires, oil changes, and more, performed by ASE certified mechanics. The all-new Starks Auto Service, 2813 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, 870-204-7112. Starks Auto Service, Jonesboro.com.
The key to making this station even better could be parked in your driveway right now. Donate your old car to us, you'll get a tax deduction, and we'll tow it away for free.
Go to klekfm.org for more information. Support for KLEK is brought to you by
Fullness of Joy Ministries, 2120 Thorn Street, Jonesboro, under the direction of Bishop Adrian Rogers and co-pastor Susan Rogers. www.fjministries.org.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK with our guest, Mr. Ed Tanner, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the City of Jonesboro. We want to thank Mr. Tanner for stopping by today. Also, we got a Facebook shout out. Shout out to our own Quabila Jones. I know she was under the weather. She couldn't be here to actually host, but Quabila, we're glad to see that you are checking in on the show. I'm trying to hold it down for you. I don't have Quabila's bubbly personality. I may not make people feel as warm as she does, but I'm gonna try to hold it down here. So once again, we are speaking with Mr. Tanner, and let's talk about parks now, because you do a lot of stuff with the Parks and Rec Department, and I know we've had Mr. Huffstetler, the Parks Director, on the show. So,
oh, great.
So kind of just talk about your involvement with Parks and Rec.
Well, obviously, Wixon Huffstetler's our director for the Parks Department. He has probably the lion's share of our personnel and projects that we do. They obviously are a direct link to our quality of life for our citizens of Jonesboro. We have several projects that are getting ready to close out even by the end of the year that we've just really been working on.
And what are some of those projects?
A couple of those projects are particularly out at Craighead Forest Park. What we're doing there is we've completed actually the roundabout. When you come into the Craighead Forest Park, there's a roundabout in there now, and the 3.2 mile portion of the trail has been completed, and by the end of the year we got a fence project for our ATV park out there. Next year we anticipate we're going to build an additional 5 RV sites at our campground. That's really just going to be a jewel for our city. There's a phase 3 that's going to take out the backside of our park up to Craighead Forest Hill. It's going to go all the way down to Harrisburg Road.
So Craighead Forest Park is pretty big, isn't it?
It's again, I don't know the
I don't think I probably have ridden through all of it.
Yeah, but it's bigger and better. So if you haven't been out there recently, they've completely tied in a north road in there down to the roundabout in order to encapsulate and enclose that 3.2 mile park without having any vehicular traffic.
And what are some of the other parks and activities around town? Because there may be some people who may not have transportation to get to Craighead Forest Park, but they may want to enjoy other amenities that the city may have to offer as far as parks and recreation.
Sure, we have, if somebody's able to go to our website, Wixon has a map there of all the variety of parks that we have throughout the city. So you don't have to have a vehicle, you don't have to, have something to get you down to Craighead Forest Park. There are pocket parks within many of the neighborhoods. On the north side of town, there's Joe Mack Campbell Park. Joe Mack Campbell Park out on the west side of town off of Johnson Avenue. We're getting ready to build a concession area at the most western ballparks there that doesn't have a concession area now, and some restrooms for the people that use that. Southside Softball Complex, south of Stadium. We're getting ready to tear down the old adult softball restroom area and concession. I think that was built, back in the 1970s or 80s. I don't even know when, to tell you the truth. But we're getting ready to tear that down and build a brand new one out there for them also. One more thing about Southside Softball Complex is we're getting ready to replace the old wooden pole lights. We're going to put in, modernize that with some more lighting that will make the experience down there much better.
Well, it sounds like a lot of stuff is coming as far as parks and recs, as far as facilities. What about programs? Any activities, any leagues or sports or anything that may be coming to give people things to do once they come to these various parks and facilities?
Yeah, we are abundant full of activities and programs and leagues. The best way to understand what those are, most folks, like when my kids were growing up, we participated in the football league and the basketball league and the soccer league, and so anytime we had a question about something for our children, or if we had a question about something for ourselves, usually the best place to go is to our website, jonesboro.org website, and the Parks Department has a whole list of activities they have for people of all ages, and we just really have a robust Parks and Rec department.
And definitely can attest to that. It seems like you can't drive too far in the city and not see a park somewhere. Any plans on the water park? People are always asking about that. I know the mayor is working on a possible private partnership to bring that about.
Yeah, let's. We'd prefer to call it an aquatic center.
Aquatic center,
because
sorry.
I think a water park gives other people a different connotation of slides and a whole bunch of different things, but that's not what we're really proposing. We're talking about an aquatic center, the Olympic type size swimming pool. We can have competitions. There will also be free swim. What I mean by that is not organized, just like we have down at the old YMCA pool down by the fire station off of Nettleton. Certainly there will be fees for that, but what I mean is that will be part of our pool system within the city as well.
And I forgot to mention the gun range. What's the latest on the gun range?
The gun range, hopefully, within the next month, we'll be closing on the property out off of Moore Road. And once we close on that property, we will be able to go in. The only thing we're waiting on is final approval from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for approval of the grant. Once the grant is approved, then we'll be able to proceed forward with purchasing the property, and then we'll be able to start at least some dirt work to start preparing that property for future construction.
All right, so stay tuned for that. Mr. Tanner, we certainly want to thank you for stopping by the studio today. We've got about 45 seconds. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, have any questions, concerns, or comments, how can they get in touch with you at City Hall?
They can call City Hall at 932-1052. The phone number is 932-1052. They can email me at etanner@jonesboro.org, and we read every email. We try to take it to the appropriate department to be able to handle. If we need to handle it up on the 4th floor of City Hall in the mayor's office, we try our best to do that all as well.
Any final shout-outs? 10 seconds.
The only one we didn't really mention today is our facilities maintenance, Ronnie Shaver, but he takes care of all of our city, maintains all of our city buildings.
Have a blessed day. This is KLEK.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. A program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.